Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to draw these beautiful cherry blossoms 5 different ways. And the first step that we're going to do is draw our pencil guides. And the outer circles or bigger shapes are going to be our guides for our petals, and then the center shapes, they could be circles or ovals or little triangles like this, will be for what is called the stamen, or those little filaments and anthers that make up that beautiful center of the cherry blossom. I'm also drawing arrows to these guides to indicate where the petals are going to be and which direction they should be folding. I'm drawing a gumdrop for this second flower because this one is going to be from the side view, and so the outer shape is going to be less like a circle and more like a gumdrop. And then the little center where our stamens are going to be, it's a thinner oval. This third flower will be from the top view, and so we're going to draw the big circle for the petals, another circle in the center, and I'm going to draw a little dot that's going to show us where those little stamens are going to originate. Our fourth flower is going to be another gumdrop because this one is also from the side view, but the difference with this flower is that it's going to have two petals kind of being on the front side where we're looking at it, as opposed to just one. And so you can kind of see that with the arrows that I drew. And don't worry if you're a little bit confused, all of this will make sense once I start adding the ink with the petals. The last flower is going to be a lot like the first one, kind of from the top view, a little bit from the side, and it's going to be a little bit more dramatized. So you can see here that the triangle is a lot bigger just because we're going to be able to see more of that side of those little filaments, or what's called the stamen. Now that we have drawn our pencil guide, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so that you can see each flower more clearly as I draw it. Our first step in drawing the cherry blossoms is to draw the anthers, or those little dots at the top of the filaments that make up the center of the cherry blossom. And you will use that inner circle as your guide, making sure that you follow the line, but also add some inside the circle, some outside the circle, because that sporadic placement is what's going to make your center look beautiful. Not to mention more realistic, because when they look too perfect, then it doesn't look as realistic as making it slightly imperfect and sporadic. The final step for this flower center is going to be to draw the filaments connecting the anthers, or those little circles, to the center of the flower. And we're going to do this by drawing curved lines going from those little circles to the bottom of that triangle, making sure to add a lot of curve to these lines. Take your time as you draw the filaments of this center, making sure to curve the lines in different directions just to add variety. While I was drawing and I finished the center, I felt like you needed just one more little stamen right here. Now that the center is finished, we can get started on the petals, and I'm going to get started with the one here on the bottom because this one does not overlap with any of the other ones. And yes, I did go past the circle. The circle guide is more like a suggestion, not a complete rule, so please give yourself a little bit of freedom. And now we're going to move on to the other petals, making sure that we draw the ones whose shape we can see completely, like these three, and then overlapping the ones that sit in the back. We're going to begin drawing our second flower a little bit differently because it is from the side view, and so the petal is actually going to be blocking the center. And so we're going to get started with this tiny petal here on the front, which is what I like to call the guide petal, whose shape we can see completely and use to build the rest of the petals. And we are also going to do the two side petals, one on the left and one on the right, before we do the center. And then we will begin drawing the center just like we did with our last flower, by starting by drawing those little anthers, or those little tiny circles around that little circle guide in the center, making sure that we add some along the line, some inside the line, and some outside the line. Once you have added the amount of anthers that you want, we will do those filaments, connecting them to the petals. And they don't all go to the same place like we did with our first flower. Just kind of think of where the center is with this flower, and in your mind's eye, try connecting it to that. So in essence, they will be connecting to the whole length of that petal. You can always add more anthers and filaments if you feel like you're missing some little gaps. Like I added one in the center, and I'm also going to add another one here on the side. Once you finish the center, you can finish out the rest of the petals, and because we already did the front 3, you only need to do 2 in the back like this. With our third flower, we're going to begin by drawing the filaments and anthers, or that stamen, drawing those little circles along that center circle guide, and then we're going to connect it to that little dot that you drew kind of towards the bottom of that center circle. Make sure to curve those filament lines as you connect those anthers to that center dot, because that is what gives the flower center movement and shape. Because this flower is more from the top view, the petals are going to overlap a little bit more, and so pick one to make your guide petal, or the one whose shape you're going to see all the way and that you're going to use to build off the rest of them. And so I chose this bottom right one, and from there I'm going to go around and build the rest of them. Flower petals are made up of what is called C and S curves, so as you draw your petals, make sure that you're adding plenty of curves to them, because you don't want the lines to be too straight, just because when they're too straight it looks more static and not as realistic. So as you can see with this flower petal, there's plenty of those C and S curves along the edges of the petals. You've done this step before, so we're going to do it again by starting with the anthers and filaments and then connecting it to that triangle. Just a friendly reminder to make sure to add plenty of curve to those filament lines. With this first guide petal, what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line, curve it on itself, and then connect it back to itself, and that's going to create that fold over appearance. I forgot to mention this before, but make sure that you add plenty of folds to your petals by adding an extra line along the edge of the petals, because cherry blossoms tend to curve inward, and so adding those extra folds makes it look more realistic. Similar to the second flower that we drew, our last flower is up from the side perspective, and so we're going to get started with the 2 petals that are sitting closest to us that are folding over the center. Once you have drawn both of them, they should kind of look like a smushed heart. From here you can begin drawing the stamens, or those tiny anthers and filaments, and connecting it towards the bottom of those petals. I know that this part takes forever, but I promise it's worth it, because these beautiful centers are what makes these flowers so unique. Once you finish with the center, the first petal that you're going to draw is actually the back one, because the 2 side ones are overlapped with it. So once you do the back one, you can build the side ones and make sure that you add those folds, because you're seeing them from the side. Yay, you did it! Now it's time to erase your pencil lines and begin with the detail lines. If you prefer not to erase the detail lines till the end just so that you have those arrows showing you which way the petal is folding, that's fine, you can leave them. But I prefer to erase mine before I do the detail lines just so that I can see that finished look. As we begin to add the detail lines, I want to share with you my biggest tips for adding details. And the first one is to make sure that you add a variety in the length of your lines. When they're all the same length, it looks really static and not realistic. So make sure that you add different lengths. So make some longer, some shorter. My second tip is actually specific just to cherry blossoms. As you're adding those detail lines to those back petals that are covered up by those stamens or those filaments, just add a few lines here or there. You don't want to add too many or it's going to take away from those beautiful filament lines that you drew. My third tip is to add a higher concentration of lines towards the center of the flower and making them more sparse as you go out towards the edges, just because when they're more concentrated in the center, it makes it look darker and adds depth. The next tip is to be mindful of which way you're curving the detail lines. The details can make or break your flower because they are showing which way the petals are folding, and so if you add the wrong type of curve, it's going to make your petal look funky because it's folding the wrong way. And if you're unsure of where to draw the detail lines, and if you're using a reference photo, just look at the natural veins of the petals because they are the best indicator of where to add a detail line. If you still feel nervous about where to add the detail lines, go ahead and do it in pencil first, just because it is like a trial run, and if you feel good about it, then you can go over it with ink. Take your time as you add the detail lines. This part is going to take a while, and so I'm not going to talk as much, so you can just listen to the music and relax. Feel free to rewind or pause if you need to, and just add the details until you feel like it is ready. I also feel like details vary depending on your style. I know some artists that go really heavy on the detail lines, and I know some that don't even add detail lines at all. So depending on your style of drawing, make your detail lines conform to that. If you made it this far, I just want to say thank you for watching and following along. I'm so excited to see your finished pieces, and so if you feel comfortable, please go ahead and share it and tag me on Instagram. My handle is @KarenB.creations. I would love to see it, so share it with me if you feel comfortable. Congratulations on finishing this video and your 5 beautiful cherry blossoms. I'm so proud of you guys. Make sure to subscribe for more beautiful floral content.